I think most of us have been waiting for DC Comics to finally debut a gay Batman. We didn't think it would probably be Bruce Wayne, and they certainly haven't done that yet. I don't want to mislead people on what happens in this week's Batman the Night issue from Chip Zdarsky. But it's certainly hinted at that he may have been bi-curious. Perhaps he was kissing boys in his younger days as he was outside of Gotham, learning the trade, learning all the skills that he would need to become the most fierce crime fighter in the history of DC Comics. We've seen in Batman the Night, a series that I have said multiple times we probably don't need. He's been traveling and he's been learning his skills, something we've known Batman has done within his career. In the last issue, he ended up kind of on a mountainside learning how to be a ninja for all intents and purposes. And while he was there, he met another man that was about his age. And they certainly had a connection. It seemed like they were going to be friendly. They were probably going to fight crime later on in their careers. And we get the answer, sort of, in the very next issue. And we'll get into this and how it's certainly hinted at that these two were going to have a physical relationship. So let's get directly into this comic book and show you the pages that will debut tomorrow that strongly suggest that Bruce Wayne was bi-curious when he was a younger man. We see the two characters in the city, and his new friend says, "Looks like the better man won again, eh?" Bruce says, "Guess so." His friend replies, "Oh, don't sulk. It's not the end of the world." Bruce is down on himself. He says, what am I doing? I'm on a mission, but I don't even know toward what. I keep falling short and I'm worried I'm going to just slink back to Gotham as a failure. Maybe Avery is right. Maybe I can't become someone else. Maybe I'm. And then his friend tenderly puts his arm around him, trying to console the young man, and says, hey, I know it may not seem like it, but you don't have to be the best at everything. You're amazing, Bruce. I thought I was all alone in the world. Oh, you're not alone, Bruce. You're about to have company. And the two, as you can see in this picture right here, the very next panel, look at the way that these characters are looking at each other. Those two characters are staring longingly into each other's eyes, and they're about to kiss. Look how close their lips are. They're clearly going in to do something. And of course, this old hag walks in and ruins the whole thing, destroyed Bruce Wayne's first boy-on-boy kiss. Now, of course, there are multiple ways that you could take this. Perhaps Bruce was just a little bit curious. He was down on his luck, kind of feeling bad about himself, and he needed some type of comfort, and that's what his friend here was providing. You could say perhaps he's doing intelligence gathering. He is a detective. Not only is he a detective, he's the world's greatest detective. Perhaps he's seducing the man to get vital information to whatever caper they're trying to uncover, whatever type of justice that he needs to dispense. He is Bruce Wayne. He's about to become Batman, and we know that Batman will do anything to get to the bottom of the crime, to solve it, and to provide justice to the world. If Chip Zdarsky doesn't have a panel where Bruce Wayne states, "I will suck every dick in Gotham if that's what it takes to save this city," I say he's got no balls. I want to see Bruce Wayne at every bathhouse in Gotham trying to get to the bottom of crimes, using his charms, using his detective work to get to the bottom of this, get information extracted. Does this confirm that Bruce Wayne is bisexual, or was bi-curious, or is in fact gay? I don't think so. Certainly didn't go that far. But we've seen what DC Comics has been doing lately, right? You've seen it. I've seen it. I'm not exactly surprised by this revelation within DC Comics and Batman the Night. Okay, actually, let me back that one up. I am a little bit surprised. And I will give Chip Zdarsky this. I'll give him an A for having balls. He's not even the Batman writer yet. People are somewhat excited to have Chip Zdarsky as the main writer for the Batman series. Obviously, this is preceding that. And I imagine some of the information and maybe some of the plot lines and things that's introduced within this series will come into play within his Batman. It would only make a lot of sense. Chip Zdarsky is not a household name within comic books. He's not Scott Snyder. He's not even Donny Cates. And while I am a big Chip Zdarsky fan, and I will say, admittedly, that he has written the best single issue comic book in the last 10 years, Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man number 310. Go check it out if you haven't read that bad boy. That is a fantastic comic book. To go out there and decide before he even becomes the main writer of Batman, which at this point I imagine it was in the works, or he knew that there was a good chance that he would be the Batman writer, that he would do something this controversial. It's not like we haven't had these revelations in the past. This is very similar. Well, not very similar, but it is similar to what they did with the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. He was on a trade. He was confused. He was feeling doubt about himself. And, he kind of discovered he was gay on a trade. And they had a moment. And obviously it changed his life. For Chip Zdarsky to go out there and say, listen, Batman fans, you better like me. You're going to trust me. And you're still going to read my Batman. Even if you think that this is something that I'm going to put into your Batman series, that is a major league flex on the part of Chip Zdarsky. I don't think it's smart. I don't think it's smart at all. He's, like I said, he's not a household name. This is his opportunity. Chip Zdarsky on Batman, the most important comic book in all of American comics, is his opportunity to transcend comic books, to become not a household name. He's not going to be fucking Frank Miller. Let's get that straight. But he could become, lightweight Scott Snyder. Somebody, generally speaking, that a lot of people recognize and makes a lot of money in comic books. So to poison the water, to give readers doubt that perhaps he comes in with an agenda, which we've seen in all the other DC comics, and exploring the potential bi-curious nature of Bruce Wayne as a young man, which you would expect him to further explore in the actual pages of Batman, I think is pretty self-destructive, to be completely honest. Chip Zdarsky's got a lot of stuff going against him to begin with. I would describe him as comic book Tom Green. Do you remember Tom Green from MTV in like the late 90s, maybe the early 2000s? Kind of funny for about 5 minutes, but really fucking grating. And as soon as he wasn't, famous anymore, you didn't miss him. I'll give Tom Green this. He got to marry Drew Barrymore, which means he probably got to have sex with her a couple of times at least. So he got a bonus out of there, but I don't see that in the cards for Chip Zdarsky. He's got an off-putting personality. He is a good comic book writer, but you do see him do stuff like this within his comic books. And sometimes it's off-putting. But normally, me personally, I can ignore it. There's certainly a couple of moments in Daredevil that I've had to ignore here and there to enjoy his Daredevil run. But he's not a great comic book writer yet. He's a pretty darn good comic book writer. And writing Batman is his opportunity to really ascend the profile, really become a big name in comic books. So I think this might not have been the risk that was worth taking at this point, but here we have it. We've got a panel. We have Bruce Wayne staring longingly, lovingly into the eyes of another man and potentially about to have his first kiss before that damn hag walked in and interrupted him. He was about to have his first boy kiss. Of course, I am being pretty sarcastic here, but after a while, you have to kind of laugh at this stuff. It's become so ridiculous, so over the top. It's almost, I could only eye roll for so long. I got to take another tactic with it. DC Comics wants you to know that every single one of their characters is LGBTQ representative. They prefer bi right now because they think that's a little bit safer. And perhaps they're insinuating that Bruce Wayne is bi, but maybe he's not. Maybe he was just bi-curious. He was in college. You know how you see those tweets and they're like, remember when you were in high school and you and your friends beat each other off? And I'm always like, I don't fucking remember that at all. Perhaps I was a boring teenager or something like that. Maybe I wasn't one of the cool kids and they didn't invite me over to their jacking off parties, but they certainly would have invited Bruce Wayne. And it doesn't feel like at this point, like 7 years ago, I'd have been like, maybe not. But here, at this point, I know it's happening. You know it's happening. It's part of DC Comics' agenda. And I'm not surprised it's Chip Zdarsky. I am surprised that he thinks he has enough clout right now to do something like this and not tank his Batman sales before they even start. But hey, good on you, Chip. I like that you got the huevos. You got the big old balls on you. We'll see if this risk turns out. I imagine this will become a somewhat hot comic book. I mean, it's almost the first boy-on-boy kiss for Bruce Wayne. You remember what the Batwing did? That thing blew up. Maybe we'll get some Batwang on Batwing action here in the near future. I think Batman's new slogan should be, leave no dog unturned. I will find every crime and every clue in Gotham, no matter where it lay. I used the term a couple of times talking about DC Comics' forced agenda that's happening within comic books. They are going very heavy-handed, and they are not sparing any characters at this point. We've got a gay Superman. It looks like we've got a bi-curious Batman, and they're not even using the legacy character on this one. They're using Bruce Wayne. It all kind of falls in line with the bigger picture of what's going on with DC Comics. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, if you want more information, I got this video kind of talking about the agendas going on at play within DC Comics and why everything feels so off, because it's really fucked up right now.